Welcome to R or him, where I don't know if I'm the problem. My mom seems to get more and more annoyed with my brother and I living at home as the days pass. For my brother, I can't speak because I understand her frustration with him. BC, all he does is play video games in the basement. But I clean dishes when she asks. I spend quality time by going on walks with her and listening to her while she rants, etc. But I constantly try to prove I'm enough through my actions like cleaning, folding her laundry when she asks, and much more. But this morning, I woke up at AM and I came downstairs and my mom asked if I wanted to go to Trader Joe's. I said yes, but let me eat first. She got upset and told me, oh great. Now, it's gonna be too late. BC, you wake up at 12. Leave my kitchen a disaster making breakfast, which is not true. BC, clean up, and then you make my day go all of track, and it's not balanced. By the way, I'm 21 and I'm in college, about to go into my senior year. I have a job and I'm interning at a wellness center, so it's not like I'm not productive. I will admit I can be lazy, but that's BC. I get horrible sleep, which I need to fix. I just feel so crappy. I accidentally caused a war between my family and my brother's wife's family with one innocent text message. So my brother's wedding happened 2 days ago, and it turned into a complete chaos, which I know even though I don't were there. You might wonder why I didn't attend the wedding if it's my brother's. Well, it's because of his wife's family. He did send me an invitation to the wedding because he wanted me there, but his fiancée told him I couldn't attend because I had a boyfriend. You might be confused, but I'm a man. A bisexual man, to be exact. And I have a boyfriend who I wanted to bring to the wedding, she said. Even though she doesn't have a problem with that, and he doesn't have a problem with that, her extremely religious parents, who already forced her to do the wedding in a church, would most likely banish us from the wedding and cause trouble between our families. After she told him that my brother told me I couldn't attend and told me why. You might think I was angry. The truth is, I was relieved. I hate going to big events with lots of people because of my social anxiety, and I already was used to not being able to attend certain events because of my sexuality. So it was nothing I haven't heard before. So at the day of the wedding, I stayed at home with my boyfriend. It's worth mentioning, my parents apparently didn't knew I wasn't attending the wedding. I was chillin' at home cuddling with my boyfriend when I suddenly got a text message from my parents asking me where I was because they couldn't find me at the wedding party. I told them I wasn't attending the wedding and if my brother hasn't told them anything. They said no and asked me what happened. I didn't saw any reason to lie, so I sent them a text message telling them exactly why. Now, I have to admit I don't exactly know what happened after I sent them this message because they read it, but didn't reply. And why do they care in the first place? They didn't notice I wasn't there before until the wedding was already over. They only noticed when the wedding party started. However, apparently my parents talked to my brother about it, and all of a sudden, my absence was the main topic of the wedding party. From what I heard, two fronts form. On the one hand, my parents and the rest of my family against the family of my brother's wife. And apparently he, as a husband, now felt compelled to take her side and tried to argue in her favor. It's crazy to think that I was just sitting at home, living my best life with my boyfriend while all of that shit went down on his wedding. The wedding party was ruined, and my brother appeared on my door angrily screaming at me why I felt the need to ruin his wedding. I was confused and asked him what happened, and he told me everything. I told him it wasn't my intention. I just told our parents what happened because they didn't know and wanted to know where I was. And I thought he told them beforehand. He screamed at me that I ruined his wedding. I told him it's not my fault. He wasn't honest with them. I just respected their wish to not attend the wedding. I couldn't know it would go down like this. Because, like I said, I couldn't attend several events before because of my sexuality, and my parents never said anything about it. So I thought it would be the same thing here. But I gotta admit it's kinda sweet that my parents and the rest of my family stood up for me. They haven't done it before. That's a more than welcome change. But I still feel kinda bad because apparently it really ruined the wedding party. My M's girlfriend is making me feel bad for being mad. I'm so confused and I feel terrible. So my parents have been abusive towards me in the past in many ways. They would beat me for little to no reason. Most times they'd make me babysit, cook, clean, feed, act my little sibling and adults, along with too many dogs. And for a long time we lived in filth because I was the only one cleaning, and I couldn't keep up with 6 different people living in our house. They also emotional and mentally abused me, so obviously I, Transam 16, would be mad at my parents, especially my mother, since she hasn't changed at all. I was on the way to an interview for a job I didn't get, and me and my mom's girlfriend started talking about my mother. The conversation went into my past and how I'm mad that my parents did what they did, and I'm getting a job so I won't be home all day and I can save money for myself. She started to say how I felt was weird and then said, "When you get older, you'll realize that parenting has no handbook and they do things that aren't good, but they still love you." I remember when my stepmom insert abuse here, not my place to say what she went through, and I ran from her. But I still forgave my dad, even though he never helped. Your mom was in an abusive relationship with your dad, which caused her to do this all. You'll see and forgive her one day. I obviously got a bit upset because I thought she was the one person who'd actually listen to me and not say something like that to me. I just changed the subject, but it still hurts. I know parenting is hard. I basically raised my siblings, but I think that a good parent would make sure their children's house was at least not filled with dogs and trash everywhere. I think a parent wouldn't leave their job for the kids to do. I think a responsible parent wouldn't give their 12-year-old kid a gun on their birthday, even though they asked for new glasses. I think a responsible parent wouldn't spend so much money on their partners and weed, instead of making sure there was food. I think a responsible parent wouldn't make their child a therapist for themselves, and it got so bad their kid doesn't know how to help themselves and will stay in an abusive friendship and get groomed by grown women and men, just because they are offered something the parent never gave. I think that would be, the basics. But apparently there needs to be a handbook for this all now. I just feel so betrayed because the girlfriend was supposed to be the one person I could trust, but now I don't. Since, of course, she went and told my mom everything I said. So now I'm shutting down again. I know on here there's people that'll give me advice, and I need that right now. Do I completely shut the girlfriend off to now? Karen made my train go behind schedule. So this happened 2 years back. Thought of sharing it here. I was so worked as an engineer at a heritage museum, and at the end of the tour of the heritage museum, we had these rideable trains that kids and their parents could ride on to blow off the steam, pun intended, from the boringness of the tour. So I was given the job of driving these trains. Driving these trains was the best job in the museum, and I was fulfilling my lifelong dream of going on a steam train, blowing the whistle, listening to the kids all cheering and giggling with glee, and genuinely having a good time with my passion. So as the engineer, you get to decide what train you want to drive for the day. I was going to drive the best steam train in the shed. It was the streamlined silver New York Hudson J3A Dreyfus. It was a sight to see, and the whistle was loud and monstrous. Anyway, I decided to take it for a test drive before I took the passengers out for our 1-mile track with tunnels, hills, bends, trestle bridges, and crossing gates. I did the daily routine of oiling the axles, steaming the train, and cleaning the overall look to ensure it was as shiny and silver as possible. I drove the train in the direction of our train yard. Okay, so let me set the scene. I was going to go through a railroad crossing, and before that, there was a parking lot on the left side of the track, while there was a whistle post on the other side. So this post was there to tell an engineer to blow the whistle before coming to a railroad crossing. I blew the whistle and immediately heard a car honk. I did not have time to turn around. The honk probably woke someone up, or a friendly person saw me coming and did a friendly honk. I went to pick up the cars and drove to the station. There was a crowd of kids and their parents looking at our manager's booth, and there was yelling. I did my usual thing of braking and using my bell instead of my whistle to tell my manager I had arrived on time. The manager and an angry woman came out. Let's call her M. M pointed at me. Him. I got up from my train idling. Me, ma'am. M, how dare you try to scare my kids and me? while we were taking a nap? This was probably the person who honked my car at me. Me, I'm sorry, ma'am, but I was following the sign's directions. Well, look how traumatized my kids are. Her kids were fawning over the silver Dreyfus, taking pictures, not looking traumatized or scared. Manager, ma'am, he was following directions, and please stop yelling. You're scaring the other kids. So if you're going to ride, I'm going to need to see your ticket. Some kids in line to ride my train's passenger cars looked uncomfortable and antsy. They probably wanted the train ride to start. The parents were looking at the M because they didn't want to deal with more antsy kids. M huffed. Fine, but my kids should ride in the front with the engineer. M gave the ticket to my manager. My manager looked at the key and said, Manager, ma'am, first of all, you needed to book the ticket online and choose the seats for your kids and you. The front near the engineer and the back near the caboose is our most popular options. This ticket is for the middle train cars. Secondly, this ticket is for tomorrow, so I cannot let you ride this. Up starts the train. M started to have another tirade with the manager, and I went over to the two kids of M to tell them I was starting the train. I felt bad for them for having a psychotic mother like that, so I gave them a golden train keychain that I gave everyone. At the end of a train ride, we were a few minutes behind schedule, thanks so much M. So I yelled, all aboard, blew the whistle, and left the station a little too quickly. I drove the train, and I was coming up on a railroad crossing and saw the M pulling up to the dropping gates of the crossing. I had a devilish thought in my head. I dropped the speed to 10-15 mph. Karen was honking her car and screaming at me. I just looked at her and smiled, putting my hands up. Me, just following the rules.